Hi, this is Scott Freed, and this is my data overview for Lassiter High School. We're going to start off with a little bit of a data profile here about Lassiter. If we're going to get into a data team presentation could be anybody, administration, school data team, the county school board, anything you'd want to know about Lassiter. Lassiter is in East Cobb. It's a pretty affluent suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. And you can see here's the total enrollment for Lassiter. It's a large school. By the year 2017, that school year ending, the school had 2,197 students in it, and competing in Class 7A in athletics with the largest schools in the state. If we disaggregate by gender, we can see that, pretty even split between the two genders here. Represent that going into our power of visual data demonstration here. We can see here's the school totals enrollment, and males and females pretty similar over all 4 years that I looked at. And then I did average enrollment by gender from 2014 to 2017. The average enrollment of the school was 2,117 students, and you can see just about even 50-50 split. If we disaggregate by ethnicity, and we look at what's going on here, here's again the total enrollment numbers down at the bottom, and we can check out what's going on with everything. Obviously, the largest group within the school is the white students, followed by African Americans, and we have Hispanics coming in here in third, with Asians and other groups trailing behind them. Again, these tables don't always do the best thing for us, so it's always best to come and make some nifty little charts. Again, here you can see the overwhelming presence of the white population within the school, dwarfing all other groups. And again, I did average enrollment by ethnicity from 2014 to 17. There's the same average total enrollment number. The average white percentage is 75.7%. and then following the other groups into this little corner that they occupy up here. As we move forward, I tried to get teacher information to do demographic information by the faculty. Had a hard time getting that out of my administration, so I'm gonna have to apologize for that one. You can see here Lassiter, if we go by CCRPI scores for Lassiter, Cobb County School District, and then the state of Georgia as a whole. This is comparing just the high school numbers in Cobb and Georgia. That Lassiter is a highly regarded school, does very well in the CCRPI index. I believe in 2015 that number right there, the 98.7, put Lassiter as the highest CCRPI in the state. And I made a little line chart here to show Lassiter as compared to Cobb County as compared to Georgia. Now, if we start looking at our 4-year review of test scores, I started out by making tables here to show just the raw data that's going on. Now, of course, if we're going to look at these things, we have to understand that, the state of testing in Georgia has gone through overhaul after overhaul in the last 4 years. As we started out with the end of course tests, then we went to milestones, and then the absolute chaos that's gone in the math section of all of these things has been pretty crazy as time moved on. At Lassiter, we keep track of the percent that meet the standard, the percent that exceed the standard, and then we have a column for meets plus exceeds. That information was kind of tricky to get out of the Cobb and state databases. So for them, I just did meets and exceeds up in here. You can see the total number tested in each tested category. At Lassiter, these are the only 7 tests that we give. At our school for the EOCs, we have a pretty cool principal, and he likes to keep the testing out of our way as much as possible. So I just compared those across, number tested in Cobb, number tested in the state as a whole, and you can sort of at a glance see that Lassiter is doing pretty well compared to Cobb, compared to the state in 2012 to 13. When I get the data results and the data profile from the head of the data team at Lassiter High School, we don't even look at what's going on with failures because they're so low at our school. So thinking about, what does Lassiter do and comparing to itself to its. What I did was, in order to compare things and find trends across the years, I just said, all right, we have performance levels. And when you look up the data online, the county and the state started to call these performance level 3, whether it was meet or proficient, or performance level 4, whether it was exceeds or distinct or distinguished, because the levels 1 and 2 were below those. Um, so here's the two math tests. We can see whether it was called coordinate algebra or algebra 1, or whether it was GPS geometry or just geometry as it became known later when it became milestones. You can see here's the line for Lassiter in all 4 of these years for whether it's meeting the standard or whether the students were deemed to be proficient on that test, or the yellow line is Lassiter being either exceeding the standard, or in the case of the milestones years, if they're deemed to be distinguished learners. And we can see here that there's a little bit of a weakness going on. This is an area where Lassiter doesn't completely exceed the rest of the state when we get up in the exceeds category. And I know that from serving on the school council and things like that, and the school improvement team, that is one thing that our administration really focuses on. Is we've done a great job of getting kids into the passing range on all of these tests and either meeting the standard or being deemed proficient. But where we really try to focus on is getting kids into this category and getting to the exceeds level on these tests. Really not sure what happened here in 2013 with that test that was happening right there. The state seemed to be doing fairly well compared to Lassiter. It was a good year for everybody else. Can't fault anybody for that. And as we move on here, you can see that the gap is not probably where people in an area such as Lassiter would like it to be, especially when you see that Cobb was dramatically outperforming. There is some oddity going on with math testing at Lassiter High School that year. And so we see these kind of results happening with a strong comeback here in geometry in 2015 to 16. Algebra 1 starting to do a little bit better compared to the rest of the state. But all in all, maybe a perceived place where Lassiter could do a little bit of work here. If we move into the English exams, the 9th grade lit test, the American lit test, you can see 9th grade lit, this is a place where, again, maybe Lassiter when it was at the EOC, doing some struggling here, but what's really going on here, it can look like, we have fewer people either meeting the standard than the state and the county do. But really what's going on is that there's so many kids that are exceeding the standard that there's just not that many left to simply meet it. I think we had 99% meets and exceeds percentage that year. And then you can move over into these years down the road, and still 9th grade lit is a place where Lassiter is obviously doing pretty well compared to the county and the state as a whole. But then you start to look on the American lit exam, and there's a different issue going on here, that the gap seems to be closing. Perhaps Lassiter's coming back to the rest of the state on the American lit exam. That's probably an area where maybe we should look at that when we move to questions towards the end of this presentation. Now we're moving into an area where things are really, really strong. The social studies test in U.S. history and economics. Things are looking pretty good here, dramatically outperforming the state pretty much across all areas. Again, we have this issue here where there just simply aren't enough kids left to only meet the standard because so many of them are exceeding it. When it was the EOC, it moved over to milestones. And similarly, Lassiter doing pretty well, but the rest of the state and the county catching up a little bit, and that's just fine. Always happy to see everybody doing well. But there they are. Probably an area of strength is the social studies tests that are given. Then we can see biology, and biology is a place where Lassiter is obviously doing well. This is the only science EOC that we give. And, Lassiter opened up a STEM academy in 2013 to 14. And the strong performance of the science kids as they were drawn into that program, that really helped the school perform very well there. You can see once it went over to milestones that Lassiter is again outperforming the county and the state fairly well. And everything seems to be going fine there. So biology is probably another strength, just like the social studies tests that we're being given. What to do with the math tests that have been happening, and then really keep an eye on this American Lit exam and see what needs to be done there going forward. But all in all, I think we're doing a pretty good job at the school, and as long as we keep things moving in the right direction, there shouldn't be too many problems. But I think it's great to see how the power of data presented visually can really do some great things for you. So thank you very much. That concludes my presentation.